What's up, everybody? Welcome to an episode of WWE Fight Pit here at House Call Sports. My name is Sammy HT. That is Justin to my left or right, whatever you're looking at. And today, we're going to be discussing Jey Uso finally winning the Intercontinental Championship. What's next for Braun Breaker? Touching a little bit on the recent documentary with Mr. McMahon. And also, Dom is inside a shark cage. The custody of Dom is alive and well. All that and a little bit more coming up. But before we get into that, word from our sponsor, Vivid Seats. Vivid Seats is the most trustworthy and easy to navigate ticketing website. They have reliable and rewarding tickets with a 100% buyer's guarantee, which means your transaction will be safe and secure. You will get full service customer care and be compensated for any canceled events. And it's got the only ticket rewards program around, which means that any WWE event, any NFL event you want to go through, Vivid Seats is the place to get them. So go to it now. Hit the link in our description and go sit vividly. Yeah. Now, I would love to start off with something light because there's a hurricane passing through all of Florida right now. Not all of it, but most of it. And I prefer to talk about something a little bit light. So, Justin, we get into something a little light. Jey Uso, after being 0-6 in title defenses, singles title matches, he finally wins the big one on Monday Night Raw. 14 years in the business as a tag team champion, apart one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Some may consider it the greatest tag team of all time. And he's finally branched out as a single star. He's been over for months now, and he's finally been paid the dividends. So, Justin, what are your thoughts on Jey Uso finally winning it, man?
The main event era has officially begun, and your new Intercontinental Champion is now in your city. Oh my gosh. It's been so long in the making. Like, you, me, Ali, we have been here week after week after week for months saying that It is time to capitalize on Jey Uso's popularity. It is time to put singles gold around that man's waist. And you know what? I absolutely love the way that WWE handled this title match. They could have just put this on a PLE because this is a marquee matchup between him and Braun Breaker. You got Jey Uso, who we spoke about him having a very limited move set in a way, versus Breaker, who is a young star, superstar in WWE, who has a very versatile move set. He can hit you with power. He can hit you with speed. He could be the powerhouse or the cruiserweight for you, whichever one he needs to be in that match. And they put on a banger. I know this year we had Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns for the Universal title, but this match is up there too for match of the year when we go back into the Slammies. And the way WWE handled it by not putting it on a PLE, but putting it on Monday Night Raw, and then first thing Tuesday afternoon, uploading it on YouTube in its entirety for the fans, that's how WWE keeps and grows their audience. They gave a marquee match that was, in my opinion, a 5-star match from both competitors, and put it in places where the majority of your fans can watch it. Whether you have cable and can go on Raw, or you don't have cable and you got access to a YouTube account. But where I see this going from here, man, Jey Uso going to be holding that title for a little bit because he's got to savor that moment. He's the first person out of the Usos to get a singles title. Like you said, it's been 14 years in the business. We keep forgetting how long these veterans have been in WWE. 14 years. And that man has now held singles gold. But for Breaker, this is also a good thing for him. He got to step foot in Raw in a main event match against somebody as over as Jey Uso. Yes, he didn't get the win, but this is something that just hones the star power of Braun Breaker even more. He's got a full career ahead of him, and it won't be long until we see him in the main event picture going after the world title.
Yeah, it won't be at all. Look, Jey Uso has been a top merch seller. He's been over with the fans for a long time, and he has just been phenomenal and with everything. And I know a lot of people, particularly the IWC, was very critical of Jey Uso for really no apparent reason. As when somebody gets over, there's got to be somebody to ruin the party, and leave it to the IWC to say, hey, no way, this guy's not that good. And of course, look, I saw on Twitter somebody say something about him being this being as big as Jeff Hardy. Now, I wouldn't agree, because Jeff Hardy, his popularity was crazy just because of the stuff he did. I will say there are things that Jey Uso does. There are things that Jey Uso does that are better than Jeff Hardy. But the way when Jeff Hardy won that title at Armageddon in 2008, it was just a crazy feeling. Back in 2008, if there was a poll between President Obama and Jeff Hardy might have won. That's how popular Jeff Hardy was. So, but regardless, let me get back to Jey Uso. Jey Uso deserves this. There's no question he deserves it. It was almost perfect the way WWE handled it. And a lot of people have been complaining about, the lack of title matches on PLEs, but I would argue the lack of matches in general on PLEs, but I would argue this is exactly why like these moments should be reserved for Raw. Because now we're going to look back at Jey Uso winning this title as a Monday Night Raw moment, not a bad blood moment, not a backlash moment, not a Monday Night Raw moment. And people have to understand, Monday Night Raw is a staple for the WWE, and creating these moments week after week after week are absolutely necessary. And Jey Uso winning this title has to be it might be the best moment up there with one of the best moments of the entire year in WWE, period, not just Monday Night Raw. I think Jey Uso deserves it. I don't know if his reign will be that long, though. And this is where I'm going to get to Braun Breaker. I think Braun Breaker is going to get this title back eventually. Look, obviously Jey Uso is going to get his time to shine with the belt. I would imagine he's going to have a couple of defenses, but I do think Braun Breaker is going to get this title back. I think that we don't need multiple. I don't think we need long title reigns for somebody to have dominance. I think if you win that championship multiple times, that shows your dominance as well. Chris Jericho is regarded as one of the greatest intercontinental champions of all time, just because he is one of the most decorated intercontinental champions ever. He's won it 9 times. Look, and in order for him to win it 9 times, he had to lose it 9 times. And how are you going to get that resume? So a lot of people forget losing the title is not necessarily a bad thing. And for Braun Breaker, look, I don't know if he's going to turn babyface. I actually prefer him as this little tweener because he definitely plays to the crowd a bit, but he's going to get this title back. But I think there was a dire need for WWE to give Jey Uso his moment. It needed to happen. And clearly, and I talked about this. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. And it sounds like they listened to me because there was a Jey Uso problem. He's over, but who are they going to really drop the title to? Is Braun Breaker going to lose? Is Gunther going to lose? The way title holders were being booked in the Triple H era, it was long, stolen reigns that were fantastic, but they were long reigns. Sami Zayn's reign was relatively long. It ended at SummerSlam. So it looked like they were going to keep on going with that track, and that helped with the prestige of the title. With Jey Uso winning this title on Monday Night Raw, the prestige remains the same. Braun Breaker is going to be fine. He's only lost twice. And I think, Justin, and you can chime in on this, he lost the exact same way he lost to Sami Zayn. And I'll explain how. He underestimated the veteran talent, right? He ends up having a title match with that veteran, and he loses, right? Except this time he lost the title. Before, he lost the title match. So I definitely think that WWE is trying to make they're trying to make Braun, yes, he is a dominant heel, obviously, but a dominant heel who's arrogant, and an arrogant man oftentimes in life will make some mistakes. Absolutely. So I think this is just a testament that they're finally willing to give Jey Uso the ball. The line of champions right now, if you look at WWE, if you take away the tag team champions, because those are absolute garbage, we all know that. You got LA Knight as your US champion. You got Jey Uso as your Intercontinental champion. You have Gunther as your World Heavyweight champion. And you got Cody Rhodes as your undisputed WWE champion. It's really a beautiful thing to see if you check it out. Justin.
Don't forget the ladies. You got Liv
Liv Morgan. I almost forgot about the lovely Liv Morgan. Of course, Liv Morgan is the women's world champion, and then obviously Nia Jax. Look, the ladies. I do apologize. I don't know why I forgot. Thank you, Justin, for being chivalry is alive, and Justin is proof of that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I do want to.
Because that goes into another topic we're going to be talking about. Yeah. But before we get into that, I just want to make two remarks. One about the Braun Breaker, kind of arrogant situation. It's definitely a character arc that we've been seeing probably even since NXT, where he did the babyface version of it, where he plays the role because he has the family name behind it, being basically a Steiner. He has the physical ability, and as a performer with his moveset, like I mentioned, and just the way he carries himself in the ring, he can be that arrogant. But it's going to be interesting to see how they develop that, because you may end up losing to more and more veterans in more different ways. Because if he gets rolled up by another veteran, then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we're going to see if you're going to break from that. Other thing I wanted to touch on, the whole comparison between this win by Jey Uso and Jeff Hardy. Yes, in a way, because they are both, tag team champions, legends in that respect, getting singles victories, getting title shots. The one thing that makes Jeff Hardy's thing better than Jey Uso is that Jeff Hardy did it for the WWE title and not necessarily the mid-card title, because we've had Jeff Hardy do European title runs, Intercontinental title runs, US title runs, I believe also. We even had Matt Hardy with the same respect, although Matt Hardy also had the ECW world title at one point. So Jey Uso's right there compared to that.
Yeah, and you see the influence that I saw a video of I don't know if you saw it was circulating online, of this kid who has a haircut like Jey Uso, has Jey Uso merch on. He sees Jey Uso win that title and he just breaks down in tears. This is what it means this is what Jey Uso has meant to the WWE universe, man. It's absolutely. I do want to touch on one thing for Braun Breaker. One more thing before we move on to the ladies. Braun Breaker right now has been booked relatively well. I would argue that there are some people who argue, hey, now's a good time for him to turn babyface. I think now's a good time for him to stay where he's at. And I think him chasing the title actually makes him a bit more interesting. I do, because what got him as over as he did, the fact that he was not a part of King of the Ring, that catapulted him to the Intercontinental Championship picture. And I think people forget that while there is one aspect of Braun Breaker's career where he didn't get King of the Ring, while that's a shame, he was catapulted as soon as he realized it. That's when he started getting over with the audience, with the barking, with his spears. I think his spears got him more over than anything, because the impact of them was just utterly insane.
It's 22 miles per hour running the ropes.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. He's a freak of nature, Justin. It's actually insane when you think about it. And now you see him lose this Intercontinental Championship. He was the Intercontinental Champion for about 51 days, I'd say.
Yep.
I don't think that's a bad reign, and I don't think that's a transitional champion at all. I think a transitional champion is just a title you put on somebody just for putting on them. It didn't feel like the swerves that would happen where Jack Swagger was champion. I think that was more of a transitional champion. I think what's a better, Justin, if you can help me out, what's a better example of a transitional champion? Because I don't think that Braun Breaker is one. Man.
essentially a transitional champion in WWE terms is basically someone who has the title, but we don't understand why they have the title.
Right.
And I guess there's like a couple of different options. I have to go through like the list of championship reigns to really think about it. One of the ones, and I'm sorry, don't cancel me for this. I feel like Big E's world title reign was like one of them because he essentially got fed to Brock Lesnar. So
right. as well as Kofi.
But Kofi Mania was like high.
Yeah. But I mean, he did it, and they tried to do a bit of something with that with Kofi's title reign. It just never really panned out. And in all honesty,
actually, I think I got a better one. Jack Swagger's very first world title run. Yeah, that was more of a transitional champion. His second one as like the All-American, like the We the People Jack Swagger, that was real. But his very first one, when he was just
did he ever win the title? Did he ever win the title as We the People?
Yeah. As We the People. I don't think it was the world title. He has had title runs as We the People Jack Swagger. I think that was an ECW.
I don't think it was the world. I think there you go. ECW was one of the reigns. I think that overall, like, people have forgotten what Damian Priest was technically gonna be a transitional champion. That's what everybody assumed. Yeah. Like, because they were like, oh well, Drew McIntyre, Scotland, he's gonna get his moment here, transitional champion. When Damian Priest won that match, everything was at all that transitional champion stuff. And I think we're done with the transitional champion era. I think that we really, I think that was just full of, like, the Intercontinental Championship. Back when Vince McMahon was still in charge, that was definitely, oh my gosh, that was 1000% just a transitional champion after transitional champion era. There was no consistent title reign. There was no memorable title reign. It was just bad. It was just completely. It was just terrible.
Oh my god! It's Vince McMahon getting the world title back in the WWF days.
Yeah,
that was definition.
That was transitional. Like, what are we doing here, bro? I also think there was a great I saw the Mr. McMahon documentary, and another example that I can give is Iron Sheik. Iron Sheik was a heel. Bob Backlund was a champion. Vince McMahon didn't like Bob Backlund, but Vince McMahon is not going to put Bob Backlund versus Hulk Hogan. Okay, that's not going to make any sense. Back when Vince was actually sensible, he's like, let me put it on the heel, right? He got a lot of hate. And then let me give it to Hulk Hogan, and then that's when the dominant championship reign started. So that's how Vince used to book champions. Unfortunately, he's kind of lost his sense of booking along the way, and we'll get to Vince McMahon very, very shortly. But yeah, Braun Breaker is not a transitional champion.
I'm trying to think, because you got me with the Iron Sheik. Ultimate transitional champion, Jinder Mahal.
Yeah, there you go. But no, actually, I'd say it wasn't. I'd say he wasn't, and I'll tell you why. Because Jinder Mahal, back then, they really tried to, I think it was 2018 when he was champion, or 2019? Mm-hmm. 2018, when he became champion, WWE, I'll never forget it, because I was actually watching a bit, week by week at this point, WWE wanted to reach out to the country of India. The country of India. They wanted to reach out to fans there. India was not having it. India was not having it because everybody who's smart knows Jinder Mahal up to this point was a loser. Okay, so Vince McMahon essentially tried to insult the audience's intelligence and make Jinder Mahal this champion. Although the presentation, the one thing I know it wasn't transitional, they updated his presentation. They gave him managers. He had defended the title. He essentially buried Shinsuke Nakamura, who was one of the hottest acts in 2018 at the time. They did not. Jinder Mahal's was not transitional. He
brought back the Punjabi prison match.
Yeah, like that. Like, obviously, when we're looking back at it, it's more like, what a terrible reign, because Jinder freaking Mahal. But it wasn't transitional. It was more just like, oh, they had a plan with it. The plan didn't work. And I'd say the ultimate transitional champion, though, and I think you'll agree with me, Rey Mysterio. He did not even win the title Now I'm not talking about the World Heavyweight Championship. I'm talking
Okay.
about in 2011 when he won the championship after CM Punk, like this is after Money in the Bank. They held a tournament. Rey Mysterio won the belt only for John Cena to come in and just take the belt from him. And of course, this obviously led to something. It led to CM Punk coming back and him raising the title next to John Cena. And while that was,
see, you could bring 2020, what is it, 2023, 2024 Rey Mysterio with the US title. That's a better example.
I think that's a better example as well, because they were trying to put the US title was in a terrible place thinking about it now. I mean, it was just not good. Now, speaking of title reigns, I guess Liv Morgan's title reign, we'd say I think it's been a pretty good success for the most part, right? She's only had, I believe, 3 title reigns. I believe Becky Lynch, Zelina Vega, and Rhea Ripley. She's been the title holder for about over 100 days at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The match at Bad Blood, which is I don't really understand. I don't even know how to segue this. Dominic Mysterio is going to be inside a shark cage raised above the ring, and they're going to have a match. Now, I only wish that this match had a bit of a stipulation. This is the stipulation, the shark cage, but I kind of wish they would just like destroy each other too while Dominic Mysterio is looking down. Here's my thing. A part of me wants this storyline to end, and I'll tell you why, Justin. And I do like this stipulation. I think it's hilarious. Let's be honest, though. I kind of want Dominic Mysterio to go out and go for titles. Clearly, Dominic Mysterio's in the midst of this women's division, and he's essentially carrying him along with the 2 women that are essentially carrying that women's division, because Pure Fusion Collection sucks. Collective, whatever they're called, they suck. And then, well, really, the only thing surprising, the women's tag team division is actually fantastic. But other than that, you don't really have a lot of contenders. Io Sky is a contender, but she's a part of a tag team right now, right? So we really don't have any contenders. I want them to start building that women's division again. I really do. I don't want Dominic Mysterio. I think now that Jey Uso is champion, this is a perfect time to say, hey, have a heel chase after this title, have him win it in a slimy heel. You know the heat he would get if he took the title off Jey Uso. Oh my goodness, it would be fantastic. So it's not that I'm not appreciating this feud. I just feel like this feud is overstaying its welcome a bit. I hope it ends at Bad Blood. I want Rhea to win the title and we move on to something else. What I've heard that people have wanted was Raquel to return, right? And Raquel return and to help Liv Morgan. Something just fall?
No, nothing fell. That's you thinking about the tropical storm going on behind you.
I think that must be a rainstorm, and I just keep hearing things. I'm not sure if it's thunder or something falling. But back to what I was saying. I look a lot of people talking about Raquel returning and helping Liv Morgan, and I guess that does make sense. How much longer are we going to drag this feud, though? Like, let's be realistic.
No.
I hope by the end of this feud that they're going to be done, right? Like,
no, that's it. I remember I have called this literally since the turn with Dom that this was all going to end in Bad Blood. Now, where this ends, it's going to depend on a couple of factors. If Raquel Rodriguez is actually coming back, which, God, I want her back because I think this women's division needs some juice. And I think she's like one of the best women to bring it. If she does come back, then Liv Morgan's winning this match. Because lately it's been about Liv Morgan facing off against either people that she's had beef with for a minute, i.e. Becky Lynch, i.e. Zelina Vega, or people that she used to be tag teams with, which was Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez. And Raquel, if she comes back and goes straight to the title picture, that's where you're going to get the next feud, Raquel versus Liv. But we can deal with that after Bad Blood. Let's talk more about this funny ass situation that Dominic Guerrero Mysterio finds himself in right now.
Guerrero Mysterio.
Yes, I say that because he pulled up in the lowrider.
Yeah, the lowrider was fire. They're selling that as a toy now. They're like they immediately after he. Of course, I would buy it.
It's a Funko Pop right now somewhere.
I'll take it. Are you kidding me?
No, but let's talk about how we got here. So Dominic always likes to claim that he was in jail. You know, he did time behind bars, and you know how hard he was behind that.
Yeah.
And then Dominic outside the ring, actual Dominic Mysterio, went on the Impulsive podcast with Logan Paul and shared with us a nice little story about back when Eddie and Ray had their custody of Dom ladder match back in Survivor Series years back. And apparently the original idea was to hang Dominic from the top and have one of them grab him to win the match. Now, obviously, there's a lot that goes with that. You know, child labor for one, child endangerment for another, real ACS coming at you, or CPS, depending on where you're at in the States or in the country. So I guess they heard that part of the interview, and they heard all of us fans all over Twitter and Instagram talking about how much we wanted a custody of Dom match, and said, you know what? We got Dominic who's interfering in all of these women's matches, so why not? Let's hang him behind bars at the top of a shark cage. And the funniest part about it is watching Dom's reaction once he heard the news, because all you see is his eyes wide. It's like, I can't go back. I can't go back. I'm like, what kind of things happened to you in that fake prison that you can't go back? So it's a fun little gimmick match. It's not to be serious. It is meant to end the rivalry, this feud between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. But if it was any other stipulation, I say Liv Morgan will win this. But if we're doing this for Raquel to come back, then Liv is taking this match. And it's just going to be funny watching Dom hang the entire time.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be entertaining. Like, I like it. I think it's a great way to end the feud. But they're not going to, I don't think they are going to end the feud here. I think they're going to drag this out a bit longer. First of all, the entertainment aspect of this, look, Dominic Mysterio, he's just fan. Look, because I can't imagine the things that Dominic Mysterio is gonna do. The things he's gonna do up in that cage. I don't know what he's gonna do, what kind of shenanigans he's gonna pull. I know the Judgment Day are gonna be involved. They gotta be.
Of course.
Very, very. Look, I'm just looking forward to the slimy heel tactics that Dominic Mysterio is gonna do. But I think something that interesting that Liv Morgan said this past Sunday. Liv Morgan said to Rhea Ripley, I am smarter than you, not because I'm bigger, not because I'm stronger. I'm gonna win because I'm smarter. Do you think, Justin, that there's something in play next Saturday at Bad Blood? Do you picture something else, that maybe it is Raquel Rodriguez, maybe it is Dom having keys in the cage?
It could be a lot of different things. If Raquel comes back and does help Liv Morgan win, then it could show that she is smarter. It could be that they have the Judgment Day interfere in some other kind of way. It could be the fact that Dominic Mysterio does have keys for the shark cage, but then the problem becomes, how are you getting down from said shark cage?
While it's see Dom take a bump. We're gonna see Dom take a bump.
That would be the biggest bump ever.
That might be the biggest bump of the year if he does that.
No, actually, the biggest one is gonna be from when Randy Orton returned. Who was it that took the RKO from the top of the cage?
Oh, it was JD. He just threw JD across.
JD got bump of the year for that.
No, I think that was last year, but I think this year it would be up there with Chad Gable being hanging on top with the Money in the Bank briefcase and then him falling. The impressive part about that bump was him just getting up immediately after and then taking a spear. What a champ Chad Gable is. I do want some bumps and Dom.
It's interesting to see like what would Liv Morgan have up her sleeve in order to potentially win this. And then going back to a point that you made earlier, because I forgot to touch on it. After this, I want Dom after the Intercontinental Championship. You've already laid the seeds of Dom versus Jay.
Right.
So it would be interesting seeing that, where it's now Dominic and Jay at the forefront of that rivalry, and Rhea and Liv are basically playing the background characters in the roles reversed. So maybe that is a shot for the next PLE.
Yeah. Man, I don't know, man. I just have a strong feeling WWE wants to keep this feud going. That's why next week, I think, when we make our predictions, I might have a couple of surprises. But I do want to touch on something. Justin has not had the pleasure of watching the Mr. McMahon documentary. I have, and I just decided I want to give a couple of thoughts on it.
Do we have to put a spoiler alert?
Yes, we should put it. Spoiler, this is what happened in the documentary. If you're a hardcore wrestling fan, nothing is new. Absolutely nothing. There are certain surprises. There are things you're going to learn from the business regarding Mr. McMahon if you're a casual fan, which there are some things that I ended up finding out about backstage for certain events that happen. I'm not going to spoil it completely, but I will say that my idea of Mr. McMahon has not changed one bit. I think he's still a sick guy. Now, I will say, I think Vince McMahon, like any other human being, cared about people within his circle, cared about his family to an extent. But that doesn't change the fact that to women, he was terrible. To certain workers, he was terrible. And the stuff he did for his product was terrible. It was. And you know, him leaving wasn't just, I got to reiterate, him leaving wasn't just a necessity for the WWE. It was a necessity for himself, because his life, he says in the documentary, his life is his business, and he's willing to kill for the business. He's willing to, the most fascinating thing I think I learned about the documentary is that Vince, it was going to be Vince's way or nothing. And it did not matter if it was his kid, if it was his father, if it was his wife. It did not matter. He was going to do it his way. And what he ended up doing was fulfilling certain things that were just utterly disturbing. Justin, you remember that storyline with Trish Stratus and Linda McMahon? I don't know if you remember it fully.
Yeah, when he was cheating on Linda with Trish.
Yeah,
Linda was like paralyzed and all that.
Yeah, Linda apparently approved of everything. Ironically enough, Linda approved of all of it, and that kind of they kind of, ironically, the McMahons were all kind of in their own way a little sick and twisted. The only one who really wasn't sick and twisted was Shane McMahon. And Shane McMahon was considered the black sheep of the family, because Stephanie McMahon was willing to do anything for the business. Okay? And I mean anything. Being degraded, being labeled as a actual, for lack of a better term, whore, sluts, in front of the entire WWE audience. And Vince McMahon would say, that's what we need. That's heat. So he did what he needed to do for the business. And it was all about the business. And my encouragement to everybody, when you're watching this documentary, don't take any of Vince McMahon's moralities with you at home. All right? Maybe if you're running a business, take some, but not all, because the lengths and I got to give credit to Vince McMahon for building this wrestling empire. Without it, we wouldn't be talking about the WWE product or any wrestling product in general. I'll give him credit there. That doesn't take away from the fact that Vince McMahon, at the end of the day, did horrible things. And quite frankly, I don't like calling people horrible people, because I think no one's perfect, right? And everybody's got their own skeletons. But what the things that Vince McMahon did were terrible. They were shocking. And it kind of, I'll have you guys watch the documentary. It was out today. It just came out today. Justin, I'm gonna let you watch the documentary because I think you'll be very interested in that little
Yeah,
documentary in general.
I'll definitely be interested in watching the documentary. I definitely am, because I know, as somebody who's been watching the WWE since like 2001, 2002, so I got over 20 years of this. And nothing is really going to shock me because I have seen all facets of Vince McMahon and the WWE product from that time going into now. And there's just two things that I want people to know if you are going to be watching this documentary. And this is coming from somebody who hasn't watched it yet, so there's no spoilers. One, also know the reason why we're saying about Vince McMahon's morality is not just because of the things he did in the business, but the things that he has been allegedly accused of outside of the business. And with everything that we have seen going on in the world the last couple of years with, Harvey Weinstein, King Diddy, and all aspects like that, understand we're coming here with knowing some of this information that he has allegedly been doing. Two, if you watch this, because I know that there are some clips, Sammy, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, from back in the Attitude Era WWE, which has some questionable moral things in it, segments, promos, matches, things like that. Understand, during that timeline, the raunchier, the better. This was back in the days where
They touch on that.
Jerry Springer was like the top show because it had the same thing. So when you're watching it, if you're a newer WWE fan and you're like, how could y'all watch this filth? Understand that was the thing at the time.
Yeah, that's important to know. The WWE really changed and they follow trends. At one point, WWE became a trend, right? We all know that about Stone Cold, The Rock, The Undertaker, and Triple H, and much, much more. Understand, in order for them to become those global icons, they had to definitely step on a lot of toes. They had to cross a lot of lines. And I wouldn't recommend, now in these days, there's no need to cross the line to be that entertaining. And I think that's why I appreciate today's product more than anything, is that you don't need to cross the line. You don't need to sexualize women. You don't need to do anything. Now, that was for the time, and I'll give credit where credit is due for doing things for the time. But nowadays, Triple H right now, and this is why I'll always call him the best booker in the business right now, he doesn't need shock factor. He doesn't need any extra curricular things to add to a story. It's simply good. Sometimes it's as simple as good guy, bad guy. Back to the foundation of why wrestling became popular in the first place, with the likes of Hulk Hogan. So,
yep. In the words of Al Snow, it's all about the story.
Yep, it is.
And if you have good story, you'll have good matches.
That's facts. That is indeed facts. So we'll leave you guys with that. We thank you guys so much for attending this show of the Fight Pit here at House Call Sports. Is Jey Uso going to have a long title reign? What's next for Braun Breaker and Dom inside of Shark Cage? I mean, I'm not even going to ask a question about that. How entertaining is that going to be? Very. I can guarantee you that.
And what do you guys think about the Vince McMahon documentary? If you have seen it, drop it below.
Yes, sir. And with that being said, that's going to be it for us. Please like, comment, subscribe, and follow all social media platforms. Peace.